Hi friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought that we would talk a bit about DNFs. Basically, life's too short for boring books, books that don't do anything for you, books that annoys you, and it's alright as readers to DNF books, with or without an explanation. I thought we would do a DNF tag and talk a bit about my DNF habits. But on top of that, this is also a chance for you to try and convince me to pick up books I have once DNF'd. I don't think you will be able to convince me actually. I mean, you can try. There used to be a DNF book tag once upon a time. I wrote it down years ago. I haven't checked if it's been updated since. But hey, I thought we could just look at those questions and see what my answers are. Question 1 is, do you DNF? And the answer is yes, I do. I do it rarely, I don't do it often, but I do. And it's become more frequent the older I get and the more I read. Second question, if you do DNF, does it count for your finished books for the month? No, I don't count my DNFs. Sometimes I really want to. I really want to add them to my book log because I feel like I deserve to, but I don't. So I have my own separate like DNF shelf on Goodreads. I don't track the books on my reading tracker, none of that. If it's a DNF, I don't count it as read. I also don't rate books I have DNF'd. So sometimes I have finished books that I should have DNF'd out of spite just to give them a rating. Is there a difference between DNFing and just putting the book down for a little bit? Yes, there is. If you've been on this channel before, you know I have quite the long currently reading on Goodreads. Those are basically books I have put aside but have the intention of continuing with someday. It's just that I had to put them down for various reasons. If I DNF a book, it's with the intention that I will never pick this book up again. I don't want it in my belongings, like I don't care about this book anymore. And then it goes on the DNF shelf. If a book stays on currently reading, I have the intention of someday picking it up again. If the book stays on currently reading long enough, I might just realize with time that, hey, I actually don't have any interest in reading this at all. I will just move you to DNF. And then I DNF the book. That has happened. Question 4 is a fun one. It's, what popular books have you DNF'd? So I'm actually gonna have a look on my DNF books. And I feel like here is where people will get angry with me. Because I have DNF'd some popular books, okay? Some of these I can defend, some of these I can't. Let's start with one that I feel like people will be upset with. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I DNF'd Ninth House. I don't know how far I was into it, maybe like 10-20%. It was around the time when I started to realize that I don't particularly like dark academia and gothic stories, which seems to be like an unpopular opinion. I feel like everyone raves about dark academia and gothic stories. I wish I was the person that enjoyed them. I feel like that would work with my like personal aesthetic so well. That doesn't make any sense, but I feel like it would work with my vibe, my personality, if I enjoy dark academia, but I don't. I don't know why they work for me. They confuse me, they don't interest me, I get bored, I'm not invested enough in those. And Ninth House was super popular, I was excited to read it, I started to read it, and I sort of felt like, these characters don't interest me, the plot doesn't really interest me, I was a bit confused. And then I just decided to choose happiness and put this book aside. Another popular book I have DNF'd, but I've started to think that I will give another chance in the future, is The Book Thief. I started to read The Book Thief. I borrowed the book from a friend. It took me years to start it. And then I started to read it. I got 17% into the book and then I decided to DNF it because I was feeling bad that I had kept this book from my friend for so many years, so I gave it back. As I get older, I still would be interested to read this one, so I might pick it up myself one day. Maybe. This is a book I would like to give a proper chance to, and I don't really feel like I did. Fable I DNF'd at 20%. Life of Pi is another famous one. Gideon the Ninth. But the thing with this one is I DNF'd the audiobook. I have since purchased the physical book and I will read the physical book someday. It was a DNF and then I started to think that, oh, maybe it's just because I sometimes struggle with listening to fantasy and sci-fis, so maybe it will be a better experience if I just read it physically. Wolf Hall, same thing here. I think I need to read it physically instead of as an audio. This is one I might be convinced to retry as a physical read. I have beef with Maggie Stiefvater. I've had it since I was like 13 when I read the Shiver series, because I remember reading the Shiver series and hating the sequel for some reason. It's like YA fantasy romance werewolves, basically. And I know I did not like that series at all. And then we have the Raven Cycle series that is super duper popular, and like Kayla from Books and Lala loves it. And people seem to really like it. I did give it an attempt with the audiobook. I don't know, maybe I need to read it physically. Maybe I will borrow it from the library. I still feel like me and Maggie don't vibe. It's just a feeling, but I want to understand and be part of the hype. Wrong place, wrong time. I listened to this one as an audiobook. I don't know at what point I DNF'd it. I think the reason I DNF'd it was because I don't care about mothers. That sounds bad. But it was a story about a mother and her struggles with her son, and it was sort of like a Greyhound Day sort of thing with her reliving the same day and putting pieces together to a mystery and things like that. I think it was the main character and the fact that she was like just such a mom that turned me off on this book. But I know everyone loves it. I know that everyone loves this book. Like, the year it was released, it was in so many people's top 10. So maybe I went into it with the wrong mindset. Maybe I should read it instead. Maybe I should give it another go as an audiobook. I don't know. Feel free to let me know. Divine Rivals. Yep, I DNF'd Divine Rivals. More than 50% through. This was huge as well, like a couple of years ago. I wrote a comment about it. I said that the book is well written, but I'm simply not invested enough and I'm finding the story quite slow. Perhaps it would have worked better for me if I had read it physically, but there's also nothing wrong with the audiobook. Simply wrong book, wrong time for me. That's all I still have to say about it. My most recent DNF, Intermezzo, sort of what inspired me to make this video. I DNF'd Intermezzo. I have some history with Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, actually. I started to read it in September, I think. I got it from the library. I started to read it. I had to return it. I didn't finish reading it in time. So I got to like 30% of the book, I think. 35, something like that. So then I returned it and then I queued up for the book again. And then I realized that it was available as an audiobook on Everend. So I started listening to the audiobook and I actually restarted the book because I wasn't really sure where I have ended. I had a page number. I didn't really know what that translated to in like audiobook time or like which chapter. So I started to re-listen to the book. I still enjoy like the first 2 chapters or something like that. But the more I continued to listen to it, the less invested I got and the more bored I got with it. And I think the thing is that Sally Rooney chooses to focus on relationships in her stories that I don't care about. I would much rather have her focus on the relationship between Ivan and Peter, the brothers in Intermezzo, but I'm getting more about Ivan and, what's her name? Monica or something? The lady he starts to date or hang out with, and like Peter and his hookups. And that's not what I care about. I want their relationship. I don't care about their age gap relationships and why it's a good or bad thing. Like, I don't really care about it. I feel like I've had similar experiences with some of her other books where I was much more intrigued by the relationship between like 2 friends or something. But then we're getting all of this with like, oh, this age gap romance, this problematic thing, this toxic relationship. The one book by Sally that has worked for me is Normal People. And I think that's because she's exploring the relationship between the characters I actually care about. And that's why it worked. And this is sort of when I realized that life's too short to force your way through books that you find boring. And I started to find Intermezzo boring. I wanted to be a part of the hype. I couldn't be, unfortunately. Those are some of the most popular books I think that I have DNF'd. What are some books you wish you had DNF'd? I have one simple question for this. Or I don't wish I DNF'd it, because once again, I pushed my way through so I could rate this book. But In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. And this has sort of scarred me for any other T.J. Klune books. So this book, I have a review of it. I have ranted about this in videos as well. This book is such a turn off for me. I really enjoyed like House of the Cerulean Sea. I also liked Under the Whispering Door, but then when I started listening to In the Lives of Puppets, something changed between me and TJ Klune. It's a sci-fi queer normal sort of story inspired by Pinocchio, I believe. And we have some characters. It's very childish and innocent in its tone, how it's written, how the characters talk. But then there's another layer of there being so many explicit jokes, innuendos, things like that. And that sort of did not work for me, okay? I got the ick when reading it. I felt disgusted. It's something just like having these very innocent characters and then these sexual jokes on top of it for no reason at all. And like the jokes aren't funny. The book was too long. It was also very repetitive. I really despised this book, and I still do. And I would have DNF'd it, but I powered through and listened to the entire audio because I wanted to give it a 1-star rating, and that I did. And this has scarred me now, because part of me would be interested in listening to TJ Klune's new book, which is like Somewhere Under the Sea, Between the Seas, something like that, because I enjoyed House in the Cerulean Sea. But I'm so mad at TJ Klune for what he did within the Lives of Puppets and like how that made me feel, that I'm not certain if I ever want to read another book from him. It might sound dramatic, but like really, I did not like that book at all. Have you ever re-attempted to read a DNF, and was it successful for you? I feel like I have, but as mentioned, I definitely do have that intention with like The Book Thief and Gideon the Knife. So maybe I haven't officially, but I have the intention to do that. What do you do with DNF'd books? I get rid of them the best way I can. If I own that book, I attempt to sell it or I donate it. I don't want books I don't enjoy on my bookshelves. That's mainly it. I don't keep them. I don't keep DNFs. Why would I? And finally, do you choose more or less risky titles based on your DNF policy? I don't. What it does affect is whether I purchase a book or not. I very rarely purchase books that I DNF. It's more common that I DNF library books or audiobooks. It's very rare that it's my own physical TBR. I attempt to read and listen to everything still. All genres, all types of authors. It might be the thing I mentioned with specific authors I don't enjoy or struggle with, like TJ Klune, Magus Deepwater, things like that. I might be a bit more cautious around those, whether I pick up their titles or not. But if I don't have any relationship to the author, anything goes. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for allowing me to rant a bit. I did not expect this to get as ranty as it did, but apparently I still have some feelings and thoughts about some of these books. I just thought this would be a fun and cute tag and a chance for me to talk about some books that I read throughout my years. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Please take care and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!